Chapter 1. Acquisition. I was not taken because I was special. That is the lie people tell themselves when they survive something meant to kill them. The truth is simpler. I was interesting. The circle failed before I even finished the last incantation. Someone screamed. Perhaps it was me. Perhaps it was one of the others. I remembered the smell first. Not sulfur, not smoke. Old stone. Dust disturbed after centuries of sleep. When the demon appeared, it did not roar. It looked around, as if disappointed. The others ran. One was torn apart before he reached the door. Another dropped to his knees and begged in a language no God listens to anymore. I stayed where I was, not brave, not defiant. Just slow to move, my hands still stained with chalk, my mouth dry with words I had memorized but never believed would answer me back. That was when Demon noticed me. Ah, he said. Not aloud. Inside, like a thought I hadn't finished yet. I waited for pain. Instead, I felt fingers. Not touching, but measuring. My spine locked. My breath went shallow. Every instinct screamed that prey is not supposed to be examined so carefully. You were trying to bind me, the demon said, amused. Yes, I thought back, because my mouth would not work. You failed. Yes. Silence stretched, thick, intentional. Then, but you understand what you were reading. That was the moment I became property. Not shackled, not dragged. The room simply changed. The walls lengthened. The air cooled. The exit no longer existed in any direction that mattered. You will come with me, he said. Why? I asked stupidly. Another pause. I would later learn he enjoyed these. Because, he replied, you are intact. I expected chains. What I received was a room. Stone floors. Shelves carved directly into the walls. Objects arranged with reverence. Bones etched with sigils. Mirrors that reflected things incorrectly. Books bound in skin, far older than mine. You are a relic now, Demon told me. Do not embarrass yourself by pretending otherwise. I try to hate it. I truly did, but hatred requires distance, and the demon was attentive. He asked me questions, not to mock me, not to test me, to understand. When I answered well, he stayed. When I lied or refused, he left me alone for stretches of time, long enough for my thoughts to turn feral. I learned quickly. Not obedience, usefulness. He never touched me. Not at first, which was worse. Because my body learned his presence the way skin learns fire before the burn. You are trembling, he observed once. I am afraid, I said. No, the demon corrected gently. You are anticipating. That was the night I realized the truth. I was not being kept to be broken. I was being kept because something in me was worth preserving. And I did not yet know which frightened me more. Chapter 2. Study. Time did not pass correctly in the demon's domain. I know this because my hunger arrived without warning, and my exhaustion never fully claimed me. Sleep came when it wished. Waking, too. My body learned quickly that it was no longer in charge of itself. The demon noticed everything. You catalog your fear, he said once, watching me pace the length of the room. Like a scholar indexing a text. Very human. I need to understand, I replied. Yes, he agreed. You do. That was how the lessons began. He never stood too close at first. He remained seated or leaned against the stone shelves, his gaze following me as I handled the artifacts he permitted me to touch. A bone inscribed with a language that crawled when read aloud. A mirror that reflected me, older, thinner, more obedient than I felt. When I hesitated, he waited. When I succeeded, he rewarded me with attention. You adapt quickly, he observed. I don't have a choice, I said. The demon tilted his head. You have many. You simply choose survival. I learned then that he disliked lies, but tolerated self-deception. He asked me to translate texts written in blood so old it had turned black. He corrected my pronunciation when syllables bent reality the wrong way. When my voice trembled, he did not mock me. He moved closer, not touching, never touching. You are bracing, he said softly, standing behind me. I could feel his heat, dry, consuming, deliberate. I am afraid, I whispered. No, he replied, almost kindly. You are aware. Awareness, I discovered, was far more dangerous. Days, or their equivalent, passed like this. Study, silence, observation. I began to recognize the pattern of his presence, the way the room seemed to inhale when he entered, the way my thoughts sharpened under his gaze. When I answered well, he stayed longer. When I challenged him, asked why he collected relics, what he intended for me, he left. That was the punishment. Not pain, not fear, absence. I found myself listening for him, for the subtle shift in the air, for the soundless pressure that meant he was near. My body reacted before my mind did, straightening, stilling, preparing. You wait for me, the demon said one day, amused. I don't. I snapped too quickly. A pause. Then, you do not deny it, convincingly. I hated that he knew me this well. I hated more that he was right. The first time he touched me was accidental, or so he claimed. My hand brushed his wrist as I passed him a text. The contact was brief, controlled, but the sensation lingered far longer than it should have. Heat blooming under my skin like a delayed wound. I pulled back. The demon did not. You reacted, he noted. So would anyone, I said. No, he corrected. Many humans go numb. You did not. He watched my breathing slow with deliberate patience. Interesting, he added. From then on, the distance closed in increments so small I could not protest without sounding foolish. Standing closer while I read, leaning over my shoulder to correct a line. Fingers hovering just shy of my skin, close enough that my nerves filled in the rest. You are learning restraint, he said. I am learning survival, I replied. The demon smiled, barely. Call it what you wish. I realized then the true nature of my captivity. I was not being trained to serve. I was being trained to want. Want his approval, his presence, his voice in the silence. One night, after translating a passage that described devotion as a form of erosion, I asked the question that had been rotting inside me. What happens when you tire of me? The demon considered this longer than usual. I do not tire of relics, he said finally. I either discard them or integrate them. The word settled into me, heavy and intimate. That night, when he left, the room felt unbearable. And that was when I understood the most dangerous truth of all. Nothing had been taken from me yet. I was giving myself away, piece by careful piece, and the demon had not even asked. Chapter 3. Reframing ownership. The demon stopped coming as often. At first, I told myself it was nothing. A shift in priorities, some higher concern pulling his attention elsewhere. I returned to the texts, the artifacts, the careful order of the room. But order, I learned, is meaningless without a witness. The silence he left behind was not empty. It pressed against me, filling my thoughts with echoes of his presence. I caught myself rereading passages he had once corrected, pausing where he would have interrupted, anticipating commentary that never came. "You are distracted," the mirror observed one evening, its surface rippling faintly. I shattered it against the floor. The demon did not appear. That was when panic took root. Not fear of punishment. Fear of irrelevance. I began to overperform. Translating texts before they were requested. Preparing analyses no one had asked for. Aligning artifacts precisely the way I knew he preferred. Angles exact, symbols facing inward. Days passed, then more. When he finally returned, he did not acknowledge the change. He simply stood at the threshold, watching me kneel on the floor, reassembling a fractured sigil with shaking hands. "You have altered your behavior," he said calmly. The observation was surgical. No praise, no accusation. "I am adapting," I replied. A pause. "To what?" the demon asked. The question struck deeper than any threat. I did not answer immediately. My mouth opened, closed. The truth waited patiently, knowing it would be spoken eventually. "To you," I said. The demon approached then, slowly, deliberately. He circled me, footsteps soundless, presence overwhelming. "You mistake proximity for ownership," he said. "Then correct me," I replied, before I could stop myself. Silence. The demon crouched in front of me, lowering himself to my eye level for the first time. His gaze was intense, focused, not cruel, not gentle. "Ownership," he said, "is not declared. It is accepted." His hand lifted, hovered beneath my chin, did not touch. "Look at me," he instructed. I obeyed. Not because he commanded me, but because I wanted to be seen. "You have not been bound," the demon continued. "You eat when you wish. You speak when you choose. You study because it pleases you." He tilted his head slightly. "Tell me, what have I taken from you?" I searched myself for the answer. My freedom. I could not leave, but I no longer wanted to. My will. I still made choices, just not the ones I once thought mattered. "My certainty," I said, finally. "About who I was." The demon smiled. "There," he said softly, "that is the offering." He stood, withdrawing his hand. And that, somehow, was unbearable. I rose, without being told, took a step closer, then another. The air between us tightened. "If I am a relic," I said, voice steady despite the tremor beneath it, "then define my function." The demon regarded me for a long moment. Something unreadable flickered behind his eyes. "You preserve meaning," he answered. "You contextualize power. You endure." He leaned closer, not touching, still refusing me that final confirmation. And, he added, you choose. I understood then what he was doing. He was giving me space, not as mercy, but as a test. So I closed it. I lowered myself to my knees again, not where I had been working, but directly in front of him. The movement was slow, deliberate, unmistakable. I choose this, I said. I choose you. The demon's breath, hot, dry, intoxicating, brushed my temple. You should be certain, he warned. I am, I replied. This is the most precise decision I've ever made. At last, finally, his fingers touched my chin. The contact was devastating. Not because it hurt, because it fit. You have reframed yourself correctly, the demon said. From possession to purpose. His thumb traced my jaw with reverent precision. You are no longer being kept, he murmured. You are remaining, and in that moment, I knew there would be no escape. Not because I was trapped, but because I had stepped willingly into his keeping. Chapter 4. The Confession. There was no ceremony afterward, no declaration, no marking of the moment that changed everything. The demon did not claim me with spectacle. He simply adjusted me like an object finally placed where it belonged. Time resumed its strange rhythm. I was no longer asked to prove myself. The tests ended. The lessons softened. The demon's presence became constant, not looming, not oppressive, but precise, intentional. I slept when he wished me to rest. I woke when he required my attention, and somehow that felt merciful. You are calmer, the demon observed one day, as I read aloud from a text that described devotion as a form of architecture. I am aligned, I replied. He accepted that answer without comment. I realized then that I was no longer being watched. I was being accounted for. The demon touched me freely now, not possessively, not cruelly, a hand at my back to guide me. Fingers adjusting my posture when I grew careless. Contact that corrected rather than consumed. You do not flinch anymore, he noted. I don't need to, I said, because I knew the boundaries, because I trusted them. One evening, if evening is the right word, he asked me to speak. Tell me how you understand yourself now. I closed the book I was holding, considered the question carefully. This, too, was a test, but not of loyalty, of honesty. I was a scholar, I said. I believe knowledge was neutral. That power could be observed without consequence. The demon remained silent. I was wrong, I continued. Knowledge wants context. Power wants a witness. I met his gaze without fear. I am no longer yours because I was taken, I said. I am yours because I remain intact. The demon's expression shifted, subtle, restrained. Approval, perhaps, or something more dangerous. You speak as a relic, he said. Yes, I agreed. I have been preserved. His hand rested against my throat. Not to restrain, not to threaten. Just there. A reminder. You could still leave, he said quietly. You know that now. I did. The door was no longer locked. The room no longer shifted to prevent escape. The chains had never been physical, and neither was their absence. I thought of the world beyond this place, of noise, of insignificance, of being unseen. Out there. The demon lowered his head until his forehead touched mine. The gesture was intimate in a way no touch before it had been. Then, "Speak your confession," he murmured. So I did. "I confess that I want to be known," I said. "I confess that I want to be kept," I continued. "I confess that submission, chosen, measured, deliberate, has made me more myself than freedom ever did." The demon exhaled slowly, as if savoring the words. "You are not owned," he said, at last. "No," I replied. "You are not bound." "No." His thumb lifted my chin. "You are curated." The word settled into me like a final truth. I leaned into its touch without hesitation. And if this is damnation, then let it be recorded accurately. I was not lost. I was collected. And I have never been more whole. Chapter 5. The interruption, the attack, came without warning. I was alone. That, I would later understand, was the mistake. The demon's domain had grown, permissive. Doors remained doors. Shadows behaved. I had earned trust, not freedom, but proximity without supervision. So when the air shifted, wrong, sharp, invasive, I did not react quickly enough. Something old slipped through the cracks. Not a demon, not human. A scavenger. It wore the echo of a name I had once translated. A thing that fed on claimed objects, relics left unattended. Power momentarily unguarded. It did not want me alive. It wanted me unkept. "You are valuable," it hissed, voice splintered, reaching for me with hands that did not belong to any one body. "And you are alone." I tried to speak. The sound died in my throat. Its touch burned, not physically, but conceptually, like being erased from context, like being reduced to raw material. And for the first time since my capture, I felt true fear, not of pain, of being lost. The demon arrived without sound, without transition, without restraint. The pressure of his presence hit first, violent, absolute. The room collapsed inward, stone groaning, as if reality itself had been seized and shaken. "Release him." The command was not loud. It was law. The scavenger shrieked, recoiling, but too late. The demon moved then, and for the first time, I saw what he always chosen not to show me. Rage, not wild, not chaotic, focused, terrifyingly precise. The demon tore the thing apart, not with claws or flame, but with authority. He dismantled the creature's existence, stripping name from form, purpose from hunger, until nothing remained that could even remember wanting me. The silence afterward was deafening. I collapsed to my knees, breath ragged, hands shaking. The demon turned to me and stopped. His composure, centuries old, meticulously maintained. Fractured, it was subtle, a tightening around the eyes, a hesitation before movement. But I felt it like a blow. He crossed the distance in one step and knelt in front of me. Knelt, hands gripping my shoulders hard enough to hurt. "You were harmed," he said. "Not an observation. An accusation against the universe itself." "I'm here," I managed. "I'm still." His grip tightened. Do not minimize, he snapped. Then, quieter, dangerously so, I nearly lost you. The words stunned me more than the attack. Demons did not speak of loss. He pressed his forehead to mine, breath uneven. The air around us trembled, warped by emotion too large to remain contained. You were left unguarded, he said. That will not happen again. This wasn't your fault, I said instinctively. His eyes burned into mine. You are mine, he said. And I failed to account for my fear. Fear. The confession hung between us, raw, irreversible. His hand slid to the back of my neck, not controlling, not guiding, anchoring. As if to reassure himself, I was solid, real, still here. I do not collect what I can replace, the demon said quietly. I collect what I cannot afford to lose. My breath caught. You are not a relic because you endure, he continued. You endure because I am no longer willing to exist without you. The truth of it settled, deep, heavy, undeniable. This was not possession. This was attachment sharpened into terror. I leaned into his hold, answering without words. And the demon, ancient, unyielding, feared, held me as if the world had very nearly ended. And he was not prepared to survive that again. The story ends here, but the bond does not. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this dark fantasy BL story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe my channel. See you next time.